Today on Locked On Rockies, I don't want to lose your love tonight.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 24th day of September in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. Check us out on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Be part of the show. Fire off your Rockies hot takes, just like Jackie Ward says. You put a guy in there 2 days in a row against the Dodgers, they were ready for your pitcher. This loss is on black in reference to the Rockies losing that finale against the Dodgers. And Jim Cusera says, does anyone think, based off of the last 3 or 4 weeks, that the Rockies might be a 75 or more wins in 2025? Or is that a pipe dream? Jim, hold on to that thought, because we got a whole off season of speculation on the way. So certainly we will be diving into that topic and more. But we can't dive into the future too much today, because we have to focus on the biggest news of the day when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. News that shouldn't come as an absolute shock to people, but news that is still difficult and a bummer, and is a true sign of the passing of the guard. I mean, it is. I mean, someone posted that regular show meme where everyone is, they're all chilling, watching the sunset, and then, as time goes on, there's all the tombstones, unfortunately, and it's just Kyle Freeland left on the end there. My point is, we have to talk about Charlie Blackmon today. There's nothing else really we can preview. We can talk about this. I mean, it's gonna be cool. It's cool that Arenado gets to come back for this too, I think. Let's just start. Charlie Blackmon, 14 years as a member of the Colorado Rockies. He finishes his career, well, not finished. He's still got plenty of time left. The good news is he was at one point a negative WAR player this season. Right now, he's gotten itself back up to 0.1. 11 home runs, 249 batting average, 48 RBIs, 6 stolen bases, 320 OBP. Slugging at 398, and OPS is 718. That's this season's numbers. For his career, and this could change, he could easily. I'm looking at two stats. I'm looking at two stats that could change here to help Chuck get to a nice round number before he retires. But right now, Charlie Blackmon's career numbers: 226 home runs, 292 batting average, scored 991 times, and driven in 797 runs with 148 stolen bases. A career OBP of 352, a slugging of 479, an OPS of 831, and an OPS plus of 111. Good enough for 20.8 WAR, wins above replacement there. And of course, every single season with the Colorado Rockies, he went and played every single year with the Colorado Rockies. And that means something. That means a heck of a lot. It means that there were moments. It means another person, another player, a good player. Do we put Charlie in elite category? There were elite seasons, but it was a player that sat there and said, the place I want to be, the place I want to play basketball, the place that I want to play baseball, the place that I want to raise my family, the place that I want to be a part of is here. It goes to show that there is still something special about this place when it comes to baseball. And when you have a winning team and when you have winning moments, it inspires those players to want to bring that back and keep that alive. And for Charlie Blackmon, it was minimal. He had the playoffs and the early part of of this run, but the last half of his career, now 7 straight losing seasons for the Colorado Rockies. Was it 6 or 7? Can't remember. That's half his career. That's half of his career playing losing baseball for a team that was out of it for most of the time. But it never took away from the fact that that guy, no one at any point has ever said anything about his lack of preparation, his lack of focus, his lack of care. Few people in the game of baseball cared as much about the game of baseball as Charlie Blackmon. You hear it all the time on the broadcast. He isn't talking to anyone during the games because he's too busy getting in the cage. He's taking cage work to get ready. He's always constantly hunting that next at bat. The guy brought competitive fire and fully embodied what it was like to be a Colorado. He's a mountain man. Charlie Blackmon, the mountain man of center field, right field, wherever you want to play him. He was the tone. He set the tone. He set the, not only the tone, but he set the trends. He set how he, just the identity of the Rockies. You come into Coors Field, you're going to get bopped. You're going to have to deal. You're going to have to pitch. You're going to have to execute. And if you don't, I'm going to lead off the game and I'm going to hit a double, hit something in the gap, draw a walk, get on base. Charlie Blackmon played top-level baseball for his entire career. And, you know, the only exception being when it comes to, performance-wise, it's this year. And that's how he knew. When you look at the numbers and when you look at everything for Charlie Blackmon, he's never finished where he's finished right now across the offensive categories. Outside of his rookie season, this year will be the lowest he finishes in OPS, the lowest he finishes in slugging, and the lowest he finishes is an on-base percentage. Actually, that's not true. He had a lower on-base percentage in 2022 compared to this year, at least for now. But he had a higher batting average and a higher slugging percentage in that year. Higher OPS as well. So Charlie knew. The downward trends, unfortunately, were starting to be there. The numbers were starting to trickle down a little bit. But this is still a guy that got 40 walks. This is still a guy that hasn't struck out over 100 times in 4 out of the last 5 seasons for the Colorado Rockies. I guess you don't really get 3 out of the last 4 seasons. 2020, always the weird one. It was a guy that made adjustments. It was a guy he just. There was nothing to dislike about the way Charlie Blackmon played the game, about the way Charlie Blackmon approached the game. If you are a young guy, that's the guy that you want to have around in your locker room. That's the guy that you want to have to helping take care of business there for you and helping you get better. He brings, I think what's so important is that the approach to the game that he's brought, the approach to the game that we've been told about, it sets a standard for these young guys. It sets a standard that if you want to be one of the best, if you want to be one of the best on the Rockies, even let's just scale it down to best on the Rockies. That's what you have to compete with. You have to compete with a guy that shows up early, stays late, and does everything. The guy that goes and lifts weights after playing a full game and then talks to the media. A guy that has a love and a passion and an energy for life, but also and is not afraid to have fun, but also takes every last little thing seriously. He can have fun, but it still doesn't mean he's not taking it serious. It still doesn't mean that he's not locking in for that next rep. It doesn't mean that he wasn't, it's an interesting line. Some people, you can't have any fun. It's gotta be serious. Boom. And then there's other people that are like, you're taking things too serious. You're not having enough fun. And Charlie Blackmon's the type of guy that weaves those two things together, two very important things. You have to enjoy and have fun and care and enjoy what you're doing. But you also have to take it seriously. You have to put the work in. You have to care about the craft. And there are few examples in the world of the Rockies that took the craft more seriously than Charlie Blackmon. And it's been a delight, man. He has been such a leader for this team. He has been obviously, there's not a lot of people in baseball that have a call and response walk-up song. And he loves the fans. He loves Colorado. He loved being a Rocky. He embraced being a Rocky. And that stuff matters. Again, as a team that's building its history, a team that's still relatively young in the grand scheme of the baseball world, and a team that, for more often than not, its legacy outside of its fans is not a good one. Charlie Blackmon made it enjoyable, made it cool to be a Rocky. He's one of the examples you can point at and say, the Rockies have cool, fun players. The Rockies have successful players. The Rockies have great players. And it's going to be a bummer to not see Charlie Blackmon play for the Colorado Rockies anymore. It's going to be a bummer that he's not going to be playing baseball. Part of me wishes, again, I'm so thankful for his dedication to the Colorado Rockies. I'm thankful for his caring and for his I guess insistence is the right way, but he didn't demand anything. He didn't want his way out. He said no to being traded when the team asked him about it. I just think that if you can pick the brain of Charlie Blackmon, if you can get into the brain of Charlie Blackmon, you can just take so many things that would help you as a ball player and as a person that's going through a grind, that's going through something where they're putting in the work, putting in the effort, and knowing that you got to keep doing it. Charlie Blackmon never once shied away from anything, really. He answered, he might not have the most, the biggest press conferences or anything, but I don't think he shied away from questions and shied away from the realities of the situations that the Rockies found themselves in. He was the guy that gave people, he was that face. He fit that face of the franchise so well in the post-Helton era. And as Tulo was taking over, and with the Tulo thing fizzling out, and with Arenado starting to rise and everything, obviously there's a lot of people that have favorite players from the playoff teams for the Rockies. But I think a lot of people who have been growing up over the last 14 seasons watching Rockies baseball, Rockies fans that have been growing up with this team, I got to imagine Charlie Blackmon is thousands upon thousands of young Rockies fans' favorite player. It's my wife's favorite player. If Charlie was a huge reason why I got my wife even to watch some games, even not just to watch some games, but be interested in games. She wanted to know how Charlie was doing. She wanted to know how Chuck was doing, because that's the type. When you look at Charlie Blackmon, that's the perfect representative of the Colorado Rockies. Mountain man, rugged, playing tough, playing hard, diving for balls, got a weird kind of style all about him anyway. He's a little weird and a little funky, even according to his own teammates. But he goes out there and he does the job, and does the job well. I mean, when you think of the Rockies, you think Chuck. You think the beard over the last few years, especially as this team continues to craft its identity. I know the team was looking for an aircraft carrier in Chris Bryant, but they had one. Charlie Blackmon is an important Rocky, a very, very important Rocky. And I think his legacy is going to be something that's going to live on for a long, long time. But it does open up the door for a complicated conversation about number retirement. And let's talk about that coming up next here in today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we're doing around here. Hey, for your second listen of the day, Sully's got you covered on Locked On MLB, but I want to send you over to the Locked On A's feed for today, because Sully has been filling in on Locked On A's, cares a lot about the A's and what's gone on with them, but brought back Jason Burke from the former host of Locked On A's, and they're reminiscing, they're breaking down the final week of baseball in Oakland, and if Charlie Blackmon didn't retire today, we'd be going into very strong words for the A's owner. I think the A's owner, I think that the letter he sent yesterday, I think his language throughout this whole thing, I think his approach to everything is sickening. Is totally sickening. And I'm the one thing that I will say that we don't have to worry too much about as Rockies fans, and as much as people want the team sold and want the team all this and all that, and rightfully having issues with the Rockies ownership, I'm not worried about the team picking up and leaving on me. I'm not worried about the team not building and not continuing a relationship with Denver. I'm not really fully. I don't believe that Dick Monfort wants to pick up the team and send them off to Sacramento to play at a minor league stadium for a year and then figure it out. We'll go to Vegas and blah 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 blah. At least the Rockies ownership invests in the experience, the ballpark, the area, the town. There's a lot of stuff that the Rockies are a part of. And you can have the complaints about the on the field product, but at least the relationship between the Rockies and the city and what the Rockies do with their relationship is in a better spot than that. So just a small little tangent there. Maybe we'll revisit that, but I wanted to at least point that out. I think it's important for us as baseball fans and baseball podcasters out here to I don't need to go in and push my narrative on the people experiencing losing a team. But I really do think that's something that is really tough for the sports fan. I mean, it's really tough to see people posting pictures of them at the stadium 40 years ago, knowing that this is the last time, and knowing that it didn't have to be. Like, I mean, there's so much the A's owner could have done. There's so much that the A's organization could have done that I just don't buy it. I'm just not buying all. I don't buy John Fisher's explanation for anything. I don't buy John Fisher's explanation for how things shaked out for Oakland. So just a little side thing there about that. Let's get back to the big story. Let's get back to the retirement of Charlie Blackmon. Let's get back to influence and legacy here. I mean, it's an interesting question here. I was sitting here saying, is he number retirement worthy? And my whole mindset has been absolutely surefire, boom, with a bullet. It's got to be there. But I've seen some people on Twitter. I've seen some people mention it's like, well, it might set a standard if you bring Charlie Blackmon in, you're lowering the bar for number retirement. And I was like, that sounds crazy. He should be honored. The two Rockies people that have their name number retired said that he should have his number retired. 14 years with the Rockies, 20 WAR, multiple time All-Star, got some still, all XYZ. But then I was curious. I was like, okay, what are the other teams? I just focused on the NL West for now, because I just for the sake of time. And I was like, okay, what are the requirements for other teams in the NL West to retire numbers? Because for the Rockies, it was Larry Walker and Todd Helton. They're Hall of Famers. We didn't know specifically that they were going to be Hall of Famers when Todd Helton retired. But Todd Helton finished his career arguably as one of the greatest first basemen of all time, which he was then rewarded with the induction into the Hall of Fame as a result of that. But my point is, the bar's high for other teams retiring numbers. I went over to the Dodgers. The Dodgers don't have, this is from MLB.com. These are all from MLB.com. The Dodgers don't have written criteria for retiring uniform numbers, but with two notable exceptions. Each of the franchise retired numbers was worn by a player who played most of his career with the Dodgers and was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Former player and coach Jim Gilliam, a member of the Dodgers organization for 28 seasons, passed away during the playoffs at age 48 and 49. His uniform number 19 was retired prior to the World Series. Former pitcher and current broadcaster Fernando Valenzuela's uniform number 34 will be retired this August. He was the blah, 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 blah. But basically, so the Dodgers standard was Hall of Fame level play or playing his entire career with the Rockies or with the Dodgers. So that opens it up. But you kind of look at some of the names that are retired from the Dodgers, and you realize that it's been these are people of the past. There's no real modern Dodgers player to have their number retired. Pee Wee Reese, Tommy Lasorda, Duke Snyder, Gil Hodges, Jim Gilliam, Don Sutton, Walter Alston, Sandy Koufax, Roy Campanella, Jackie Robinson, Don Drysdale. None of these guys are the modern Dodgers that we think about. So I was like, okay, well, the Dodgers, they're setting that standard. They're setting that tone. All right. So what about a team that's younger? What about a team that's in like the Diamondbacks? What are their retired numbers? They only have two, and it's Randy Johnson and Luis Gonzalez. So I was like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. Of course, everyone's retired Jackie Robinson. That's obvious as well. But I was like, all right, Randy Johnson, Hall of Famer, and Luis Gonzalez. I was like, all right. I mean, crucial part of winning the World Series for the Diamondbacks. And I was like, all right, how does Luis Gonzalez's career compare to Charlie Blackmon, just in terms of numbers and such? Luis Gonzalez was a career 51.6 WAR player, 5-time All-Star, home run derby champ, World Series champion, and won the Silver Slugger. 354 home runs, 283 career batting average, 1,400 RBIs, 128 stolen bases, an OBP of 367, slugging of 479, and an OPS of 845. That is higher than Charlie Blackmon across the board. When you're talking, not by much, not by a ton, but Gonzalez higher in terms of all those categories there, and a lot more at bats, mind you, than Charlie Blackmon. Luis Gonzalez finishes his career with over 9,000 at bats, and Charlie Blackmon finishes his career with over 6,000 at bats. So that's certainly a difference there. But it's like, okay, that's the standard. That's the standard for the D-backs. That's the standard for them. Charlie Blackmon wouldn't necessarily fall into the category for them. What about the Padres? Padres, they got retired numbers of Steve Garvey, Tony Gwynn, Dave Winfield, Randy Jones, Jackie Robinson, Trevor Hoffman. And I kind of see with the Padres, I kind of see more of it could see that. Because not every Rocky or not every Padre here is a member of the World Series. Or not, God, what am I? Is a member of the Hall of Fame. I should say that. Tony Gwynn, Winfield. But so I look at these and I'm like, maybe. When I see the Padres, I think maybe for Chuck. I guess my thing is here when it comes to this. If you retire Charlie Blackmon's number, do you retire Carlos Gonzalez's number? 3-time All-Star, 3 times Gold Glove, 2 times Silver Slugger, and a batting title. But he didn't finish his whole career with Colorado. I think the big difference here, because Carlos Gonzalez finishing a little bit more than Chuck in some statistical categories as well. But I do think the exception when it comes to number retirement for a player, I think spending your whole career there changes the equation. I think it changes the narrative there. Because You think of your Tulos, you think of your Cargos, you think of Arenados, you think of LeMahieu, you think of, all these other great names who have had great careers, but they've also had great careers elsewhere. And I think part of the magic for Charlie Blackmon, I think part of the influence, part of the reason why he's so special is that he did it his career all the time in Colorado, 14 years in Colorado. I think that level of commitment while performing at the level that he did, wasn't top of the league, wasn't the best, it builds the argument. I think it's okay to also sit here and say that the standard should be higher for retiring numbers. If the standard for numbers retired by the Colorado Rockies is Hall of Fame or Hall of Fame caliber, it will be a long time until someone's number is retired for the Colorado Rockies. And that's okay. If that's the legacy, if that's the standard, and that's a legacy thing that shows importance. A number retirement is a big deal. Like that should be something that's difficult to obtain. And I think a lot of the people that didn't finish their careers as Rockies that have, maybe better statistical or comparable statistical numbers to Charlie Blackmon, you miss out. It's not even considered. But when you're a guy that spends his entire career, how rare is it for someone to spend their entire career and perform that entire time throughout that career? I think you have a case. When you're a guy that's at the top of the list for your team's statistical categories, you have a case. I personally, if I was in the Rockies system, there's no way I'd wear 19. Even seeing 27 out there again is a little weird, but Trevor Story's time wasn't long enough to warrant that. It's going to be fine. I mean, if someone wears 28, that's okay. Even 2. But I don't think you can wear 19. And if you are wearing 19 as a Rocky, then you got to know your Rockies. You got to know your Rockies lore and got to know your Rockies history. So I don't know. To be totally honest, I won't. My heart won't be totally broken if Chuck's number isn't retired. But I think for those that have a strong case that say his numbers don't reach that number retirement level, I think you supplement those numbers with the fact that he's retiring his number with the Rockies, the team that he stayed 14 years for, and team in a place where he was a huge leader and a huge mentor for these guys. But it was a really interesting conversation, and it actually really made me think, because it was one of those like sports moments where I was just like, oh, of course Charlie Blackmon has to have his number retired. That's how it goes. He's one of the best Rockies. Then you look at the numbers. Then you look at the standards and the stakes and what it takes to retire numbers. And it complicates the conversation. Nothing matters, though. When number retire or not, Charlie Blackmon's still an all-time favorite for so many Rockies fans. All right, we went long in that second segment. Let's take a break. Let's wrap things up on today's episode, give our final Charlie Blackmon thoughts, and look ahead to the ball game tonight as the Rockies look to get their 61st win of the season and play the final 2 series of the 2024 MLB season for the Rockies, unfortunately. Quick break on the way, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that make this show possible, and that includes Booking.com. This episode of Locked on Rockies is brought to you by Booking.com. Yeah, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you've always wanted to learn more about. Prime time for some travel, because it's the Fall Classic coming up. Weather is changing. Weather's going to be prime in multiple parts of the country, and you want to go check some playoff baseball out? Well, guess what? Booking.com has got you covered with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more. On Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball's rival city during the postseason. With Booking.com's wide variety of choices across the U.S., you can go incognito to all your baseball rival cities. So you don't have to, people don't have to know what you're doing. And but it's super easy. It just delivers exactly the right stay for you, and you can find all of the amenities that you're looking for with Booking.com. You're going to know where you're going to stay, what's being offered at your stay, and lots more. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your baseball rivals. So when you need to book your next trip, you head over to Booking.com. Booking.yeah. We're also brought to you by America's #1 sportsbook, and that is FanDuel. FanDuel's got you covered for all things sports. We got you covered for baseball postseason, got you covered for WNBA postseason, got you covered for the wide world of football, and on the horizon, basketball and hockey are looming. So maybe get some futures, maybe get in on some props, maybe see what is going on FanDuel and the FanDuel app. And with FanDuel, you can start the season, the NFL season, with a big return on FanDuel. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed after you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. It's the Locked On Rockies podcast, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing in your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. Let me know what's your thoughts, folks, when it comes to all this Charlie Blackmon stuff. What's on your mind when it comes to Chuck? How are you feeling about this? Do you think his number should be retired? Let me know in the comments below. I know this episode going a little bit longer here, so I just want to put a bow on my thoughts for Charlie Blackmon. It is, I mean, again, simply, it's just thanks. It's appreciated that someone cared about being a great Rocky and then went out and performed as a great Rocky. It was a guy that was reliable for the Rockies. It was a guy that was consistent for the Rockies, and it's a guy that clearly his legacy and impact has rubbed off on countless players that he has been involved with. And you know that he has made an impact on helping this young core try to build up some confidence and build up their abilities here. Charlie Blackmon didn't bail on the Rockies during tough times. Charlie Blackmon didn't make tough times tougher for the Colorado Rockies. Charlie Blackmon wasn't unreasonable in his expectations of himself and of the team. And I appreciated that. And I know a lot of people are going to really miss out on singing that song every time he walks up. It's really cool that his walk-up song involved the fans, he cared about the fans, and he played for the fans. Charlie Blackmon is an all-time Rocky. Charlie Blackmon is an all-time favorite. And I wish him nothing but the best as he moves forward. I know we didn't we didn't read the statement, but you can go check out his statement. You can go check out everything there on his social media, so you can read the whole thing. But in terms of tonight, Michael McGreevy taking on Ryan Feltner here, as McGreevy has got a couple of good starts under his belt here so far in his 10 innings pitched. Let's see if going to Coors Field is going to be a problem for him. That's going to be tonight, 6:40. We'll be breaking it all down right here on Locked On Rockies. Folks, that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for joining us and making us your first listen of the day. You can check out Locked On MLB for your second listen of the day, or for all things Colorado sports, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs, all available free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.